One of the most picturesque neighborhoods in all of Brooklyn. It's filled with wonderful brownstones, gorgeous townhouses, and also a lot of churches. This is Carroll Gardens. Carroll Gardens has a long history. However, it is mostly known as an Italian-American enclave. Of course, that has changed in the past 20 years. I'm going to learn a little bit more on how that's changed. However, there's also a few classic Italian-American eateries and places to eat all along Court Street, which we're going to visit as well. I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and welcome to Carroll Gardens for a nice history and food tour. So we're starting right at the very border of Carroll Gardens, which is right over here along the BQE, the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And our first stop is going to be St. Stephen's and Sacred Hearts Church. So in my opinion, Carroll Gardens is one of my favorite neighborhoods to walk around. It also has a great concentration of amazing food. And it's even better because there's a combination. There's amazing food that is also classic, and there's also new style of eateries. Some people might call them hipster coffee shops and millennial cafes. And that combination is actually pretty unique. You don't see that too much in other classic Italian-American neighborhoods like Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. Now, this church shows the changing tides of the original immigrants who moved here. Because in the 1850s and 60s, most of the immigrants that were flooding the US were Irish. And a lot of Irish started moving down here to Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. But back then, it wasn't known as Carroll Gardens. It was known as South Brooklyn. This church shows why there's two identities or origin stories for this neighborhood, because this church is actually two churches. If we see the name right over here, it says Sacred Hearts and St. Stephen. But what is up with that? Well, founded in 1866, the Roman Catholic parish of St. Stephen was first established in the former church building of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. So before there was Irish, it was mostly Episcopalians and Protestants living here. Then, in order to meet the growing needs of the Irish population flooding inside here, they needed to build a new church space on this location. So in 1875, the church was dedicated. It was designed by Patrick Keeley, who designed more than 600 churches. But that is St. Stephen's. What happened to the Sacred Heart? Well, for that, we have to go to 1882. The Catholic mission of the Italian colony of the city of Brooklyn was formally begun here in the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary by Father Joseph Frasolini, pastor who was St. Peter Roman Catholic Church. This was the very first mission of Italian Americans, or Italian immigrants, because they quite weren't American yet, to the island of Long Island. That includes Nassau County, Suffolk County, Queens, and Brooklyn is the very first Italian parish in this entire area. However, the construction of the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway caused the merger of the parishes of Sacred Hearts and St. Stephen to come together in preparation for the demolition on December 7th, 1941. A final mass was celebrated at Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary Church on Hicks Street. So they were consolidated because of the BQE, but why were they consolidated? It's a little quirk on how these two different ethnicities go about their mass. they spoke very different languages. Also, the Italians had very different customs, and they also made different types of rituals, especially in terms of their iconography. Lots of statues to a lot of patron saints, which the Irish do, but the Italians do a little bit more. Lots of Italians also didn't know English, and Irish didn't know, I assume, that much Latin. So there were also two different languages. The Italian Americans had to celebrate or have their mass in a church where they spoke Italian, and Irish, mostly Irish or Gaelic. Now, on January 10th, 1941, a massive fire broke out, engulfing the entire church, now known as Sacred Hearts, only leaving the four outer walls of the tower standing, which was a terrible thing to have happen. So, beautiful church, look at that. I came here just slightly before they end up closing down. Again, I'm not sure why they closed down, but I'll show you a photo that I took while I went inside briefly. So right over here. That's how it looks like inside. Unfortunately, I'm not able to enter because they just closed the doors. I'm not entirely sure why. Let's continue walking around through Carroll Gardens. Bernadette says, thank you for repping the Italians. Buongiorno. Yes. Well, one thing to take into account is while there are similarities between Italian culture and Italian American culture, there's over 100 years of separation. And that 100 years of separation, Italian Americans have kind of fused into American culture, definitely have impacted American culture as a whole with America's love for pizza, for example, and lasagna and spaghetti and meatballs, but also affected the very Italian enclaves, whose very culinary dishes have changed throughout that time. So now we're going to walk to our second stop. It's going to be about 5 more minutes, so feel free to ask me anything. Now, Carroll Gardens, where does it get its name? Well, for that, we'll have to go to Carroll Park. Stay tuned for that. But Carroll Gardens is mostly known for its amazing front yards. Hello, Barbara. Thank you so much for the stars. Hello, Art. You're amazing at showing the great places in New York City that everyone should discover. The greatest city in the world. It really is. So I'll give you a peek. We'll see more of these streets as we go along, but I'll give you a peek. Why Carroll Gardens is known as Carroll Gardens, keyword gardens. In many parts of Brooklyn and Queens, we have townhouses. Townhouses tend to have small front yards that are about a third of this size. This is a bit different. There's a lot more, much more yard space, much more front yard space. Here it's huge, so hence it gets its name for all the gardens in the front, which is something pretty unique to this neighborhood. There might be a few other neighborhoods that might have a few houses on it, but this by far has the most. Most of these houses were starting to be built in the 1840s. One of the developers was Henry Pierpont. And the interesting thing is, as I'm researching into the development of Brooklyn, I'm pretty shocked by how young the developers were. So here across the street, we have a beautiful, quaint coffee shop, which prepare yourself because we're about to see a lot of beautiful, picturesque coffee shops in the middle of residential streets. It's just a beautiful thing that I personally enjoy. It really this is kind of almost like transporting yourself to Europe. Teresa, thank you so much for the stars. Bernard, excited to enjoy another tour. Ruslan, thank you so much for the super chat of 40 rubes. Cindy, great to see you too. Thank you so much for tuning in, Cindy. I really appreciate it. Hello, Vaslav. How do you get to Carroll Gardens? Well, great question. Carroll Gardens, we have to take the FG line to Carroll Street. There's 2 subway stops that stop inside here. Carroll Street is the nearest spot. Because right here, Carroll Street. Joey, you're watching from the treadmill. Oh, amazing, Joey. Teresa, thank you so much for the stars. I liked, your interview says Lucy Val. Gracias, Lucy Val. Elisa, thank you so much for the stars. Stacy, you're watching from Hereby Bar. Oh, welcome to Urbanist. Changed you to watching on YouTube. Better reception here. Interesting. Hello, George. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Susu. Your family owns a bakery on Court Street. Which one, Susu? Let me know. Let me know. Maybe I'll pop in. If you know them personally, you can let them know. I'll pop in. If it's within reasonable walking distance. I'll be in New York City a few days. Your videos have added so many things for me to check out. Keep sharing your knowledge. I will. Hello, Claudio from Italia. You're watching a lot of your brethren here today. Jamie from Dundee, Scotland. Looks like a lovely day. Not sure if you have your Foxy shirt on today. Not today. I have a different shirt on today. I have, well, let me know. What animal is this? Put the emoji of the animal on my shirt today. Kind of shows I'm wearing it because it symbolizes the different sides of this neighborhood. No, I'm just joking. I just love this shirt. So, I was going to say something. I was really shocked by how young Brooklyn developers are. As we're looking around, just take note of all the beautiful architecture as we're walking around, because a lot of these buildings were developed by men who were in their 30s and early 40s. Not that many millennials can even own a house today. And this also ties into the changing lifestyle or economic stance of how people used to live. Because right now it's pretty quiet. If we were to come back here in the 1920s when there was thousands of Italians moving into this neighborhood, you would see a lot of little kids running around, people hanging out on their stoops. You would might see people spreading newspapers, for example. There would be a lot of life in these streets. So, I don't know, just keep that in mind as we're walking around. So I'll show you which way we're walking. This is the map. We were going to start at the funeral home, however, that is currently closed. So we started at the church. And we're moving our way north, and then we're going to go back to Court Street. Gretchen, who makes your mask? I'll put the Instagram in the comments. It is Smart Glamour. Smart_glamour with a U on Instagram. And she's a very talented fashion designer. I interviewed her for my fashion documentary, so she makes it. I absolutely love her designs, and I highly recommend. Kate says zebras. Yeah, a lot of people, of course, can recognize the zebras. Donald, thank you so much for the stars. Claire put zebras. Irene, zebras. Hello, Steve from Pensacola, Florida. Welcome, Steve. Beautiful day to walk around, Cynthia. Oh, yes, it is, Cynthia. Yes, it is. So if you're watching for the first time, let me know where you're watching from. I'm Ariel with Urbanist.
It's like, hey, remember movies? Remember Hitchcock? Remember Mulholland Drive?
Okay, so we're gonna pump up later to another bakery that's a bit older. But this bakery is very popular. Highly recommend it. Very good sourdough bread. Probably one of the softest sourdough breads I've ever had in Brooklyn thus far. So really great quality bakery. It's called Mazzola Bakery. But we're gonna make our way to another bakery. However, this is not so Italian-American. We might see some older Italian-American people who are maybe more than 50, 60 years old, more than 60 years old. The new type of immigrant to this neighborhood are French. and very wealthy French. And they've been opening up cafes like Bar Bruno, which I think is owned by French people. And we'll see a few others that are opened by French. So this is starting to be called Little France. Hello, Nikita. Hello, Susu. Thank you so much for the stars. I love the new hairstyle, says Sandra. I haven't been living in America for very long, but have learned and seen so much history through your tours and videos. Thank you, says Nadia. My pleasure, Nadia. I'm so glad you're enjoying my videos. Stanley, thank you so much for the tours. Stanley for the stars, Rose for the stars. George, what are you talking about? Why there? Why there? Oh, why would French, wealthy French people move here? People, they would call them expats, generally. It's because there is a certain European vibe to it. I assume the houses are also very attractive. There's a lot of great schools here, and it is very close to the subway train station. So there's that trifecta. I would assume, though I can't speak for the French community, but that would make the most sense. So here's Brooklyn Pharmacy and Soda Fountain. Now, originally this was, back in the 1920s, Longo's Pharmacy. And for about 20 years, it laid completely abandoned inside. I wish I can go in. They open at 2 p.m., which is crazy late. However, in 2010, a brother and sister end up opening this up, remodeling it because they were part of a Discovery Channel show called Construction Intervention, part of the first season. And they remade the entire soda fountain. So pharmacies used to have soda fountains. That's where you would get your soda. And here's the same thing. They're following the same tradition. Here you can get yourself a very good egg cream. Again, I wish it was open. I was going to go inside to show it to you and get myself an egg cream. But next time I'll come again. We have ice cream flavors. Brooklyn Funk Essential. You must listen, man. Ooh, Sergio, thank you for the recommendation. So yeah, I've heard great things about them too. Egg cream, just a little bit about egg cream. Egg cream, how was it invented? Well, one of the stories, the most popular story and my personal favorite, is that there was a Yiddish actor in the East Village who went and took a trip to Paris. And in Paris, he fell in love with this dessert called chocolate et crème, which means chocolate and cream. Speaking of French people, it all turns around, comes into a circle. When he went back to New York City, he tried to go to his local soda fountain candy shop and asked the guy, hey, can you make a chocolate et crème? And of course, the Yiddish actor had probably a very strong Yiddish accent, you know, that typical Brooklyn accent. And the candy shop owner, they didn't get what he was saying. It was like, what? Chocolate egg cream? Chocolate egg crème. It was like, oh, okay. So he just made something with egg and cream. However, that proved to be a little bit too expensive, especially for New York standards. So they decided to axe the egg, axe the cream, just make it out of seltzer, milk, and syrup. There we go. We got chocolate egg cream, not et crème. So I'll show you a photo of the chocolate cream. Do I have it here? Oh, I do not. Okay, never mind. So just absolutely charming. Absolutely charming. Look at this. One of the things I personally love is the combination of mixed use spaces. So you have your commercial store, you have your multifamily housing. Sometimes you have businesses like this one over here. This one appears to be like a condominium. You have businesses like a supermarket. You have churches. You have this combination that Again, it's very European. Something you'll see more in the neighborhoods like in Paris or in the outskirts of London.
You know what? Using a question.
So now we're going to turn here at De Graal Street. June, thank you so much for the stars. I appreciate it. I agree, there's some place like home. Great name. So beautiful and so clean. I agree. So beautiful and so clean. Donald, I heard that the egg and cream were removed for health standards. Might be, however, anytime you order a sour at a good cocktail bar, a whiskey sour, a Morello sour, whatever is your fancy, sour always comes with egg whites if it's a good cocktail bar. If it's not, then they'll make a cheaper version of a sour, which I actually don't know what ingredient they would use. I think they might use heavy cream. But yeah, a sour is always with egg whites. So I wonder why would they remove it for health standards. I think selling eggs was a little bit more of a precarious thing back then. So another church. Now Brooklyn is also known as the city of churches. So where are we in Brooklyn? Well, for that, let's go look at the map. And here we have a map of Brooklyn. We have all the different neighborhoods. You can find this on Wikipedia. And I'm going to zoom in, and we are here in Carroll Gardens. So there's Gowanus right next door and Red Hook. Now, Brooklyn as a whole is known as the city of churches. And you can imagine, first you have that wave of Scottish immigrants coming here in the early 1800s. Irish Scots as well, who were kind of different people group in Ireland. They were mostly Protestant, so they opened up a lot of Episcopal churches and Scottish Episcopal churches, Presbyterian churches. You had Dutch also that were still here, so they had Dutch Reformed churches. And then you had that rush of Irish Americans who opened up Roman Catholic churches, and Italian Americans who didn't really want to worship with the Irish. Irish definitely did not want to worship with the Italians. They tend to be a little bit, not so agreeable with that community. So they open up their own churches. And then recently we have lots of South Americans since the 1980s. And they also have their own churches. So yeah, a lot of different churches here. Cynthia, not yet. That'll be our second to last stop. Now stay tuned for the end because we will be going to a place that's rather weird. Just remember this. Remember this. Why I say remember this? Because it's going to come into play for our last stop. Something like this has been made really strange in a few houses. Wow, look at the massive backyard. Hey, Addie came here from Hebrew Bar Collab. Welcome, Addie. Nice to see you here. Hello, Marilyn from Chile. Hello, June. I love those courtyards. Me too. I love the courtyards. So look at this. Whoa. Oh my God, look at these. Rows of apartment buildings. Oh wow. So charming. We do have great weather. Nice breeze today as well. So this is the historic district area right here of Carroll Gardens. These are protected brownstones on one side. The other side we have different types of townhouses. This is De Graal Street. So speaking of random little cafes in the middle of residential streets, I just saw this one while walking here. And I might return. This is not one of our official stops, but I'll just show you what they offer. It's called Poppy's.
I just called to Beef. Picking up.
So let's count how many churches we see here on our trip. We've already seen 3. This is 4. 4 churches so far. So 4 churches just in the 3-block radius or 4-block radius. Carroll, and yes, that's our direction. We're going to Court Street. That's where we're gonna have our food stops. Oh, look at this church yard. Oh wow, so charming. Hello, Arieles from Aguadilla, bienvenidos. Gracias por mirando de Puerto Rico. We moved to Carroll Gardens, says Jonathan, and loved it. St. Paul's Episcopal Church has a great, is open most evenings, gorgeous interior. Yeah, we'd love to enter it. The damn pandemic has closed churches too, and very few of them have reopened, so I wish I could go inside. I know what you mean. Brian, welcome, nice to see you here. I'm glad you're enjoying this super cool channel. Thank you for watching from Hebrew Bar. Lots of people tuning in from Hebrew Bar. Hello, Marilyn. Se ven ricos esos dulces. Ooh, they look so good, those treats. Oh, sí son ricos. Se ven ricos. Y vamos a ver unos cuantos más dulces ricos. Oh, look at these. Wow. So remember Greenpoint? Well, yeah. And Brooklyn is beautiful, everyone. I think this is the reason why Brooklyn is iconic all around the world. You know, Brooklyn has its own identity. When you talk about, you can talk about New York, which is usually just referred as Manhattan, or you can talk about Brooklyn. Brooklyn has its own unique identity, I think. And that's what is part of its magic. Melissa says, so happy I caught you this morning from Northern California. Those trees against the brownstones. Oh, yes, they are. Well, not fully against the brownstones. So, yes, sometimes you'll find trees on the side of the brownstones. Yeah, sometimes you will. Usually the trees are planted on the sidewalk. Cynthia Kinneret, watching from Israel. Welcome from Israel. Nice to see you here. Carolyn, your family still has a brownstone on 3rd? That's so cool. I really do have to find a way to show all of you a brownstone at some point. I have to find either a real estate person who's selling a brownstone or some family who has a really kick-ass brownstone. When are you going to Church Ave? Mary, great question. Probably very soon, probably next week. So stay tuned for Church Ave. There's a very cool stuff in Church Ave. Okay, everyone. The food tour is beginning. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for the food tour? We're gonna make about 3 stops. 3 classic Italian-American places with a lot of history. Our first stop is going to be Court Pastry Shop. Court Pastry Shop was opened by the Zarelli family in 1948. The original guy who opened up this shop was running until he was the age of 86. All the pastries here are handmade. However, they're known for the sfogliatella. Pardon my Italian, I do my best. Americans know it as lobster tail. Let's check it out. Hey, I would like a sfogliatella.
One?
The lobster tail, yeah, one.
Lobster tail or $40?
Oh, are they different?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Which is the big one? Oh, yeah, I'll have the big one. And then also a biscotti, this one. That is all.
525. No, we have my information. And I'm like, which is and then I'm like, which is? It was like which is 6,000. That's 11.5. And I was like, have a good one.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. All right. Whoa, this is heavy. So this is the lobster tail is basically a gigantic sfogliatella, which I'll try very soon. So let me put my camera down. Here's Court Street. We're gonna go to 2 more places. Let's take our time at each place. Okay, I might need to carry this to the coffee shop. So another French place here in Carroll Gardens, a lot of them. And all right, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go down the street over here, see if we can sit down somewhere. This is a issue with sometimes doing food tours on live. There's no place to sit. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, thank you for the random pizza counter here. Yeah, amazing. Whoa, wonderful. Okay. Okay, wonderful. My camera's a little bit. It's a bit. Okay, there we go. All right, so now that place, let me turn the camera around for better lighting. Why am I appearing so dark? Okay, I'm not sure why I'm appearing so dark. All right. So that interior might look familiar if you're a fan of a particular movie with Cher. Now, it's a very odd romantic comedy. It stars Cher and Nicolas Cage before he stole the Declaration of Independence. If you know what that movie is, let me know in the comments, because it was filmed in this neighborhood and it takes place in this neighborhood. The bakery featured in that film is based on a bakery like Court Street pastry shop. So let me open this up, and yes, this is enough to share. So they're known for their biscotti. Let's try their biscotti first. I probably won't finish this, so if anyone wants some, let me know. Let me know. Come over. Here is a biscotti. Look at that. Apparently, this is the best biscottis in Brooklyn. So that's what a few people said. Let's try it out. Uh-oh. I hope this doesn't give me allergies. It's with nuts. Okay. Oh. It is good. It's not overly sweet. So, Donald says I need some coffee with that. I'm glad you said that, Donald, because our next stop is coffee. This has almonds. I'm allergic to almonds, so it's very good. I'm allergic to the almonds, so I'm not gonna have the rest. But very good, not too sweet. The trap that a lot of Italian American places get into is that they tend to be too sweet. You know, I don't tend to be too much of a big fan of Italian pastry shops in most of America because they're like crazy sweet. But this one, very well balanced. Let's try the lobster tail. Sounds nice and crunchy. It really is. And Mal, welcome for tuning in. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa. I gotta show you this for you so you can believe it. God damn. Look at this. What? What? It's gigantic. Oh my god. This is like the size of a real lobster tail. That's the size of a real lobster tail. Look at that. Wow. So the size of an actual lobster tail. It's gigantic. A sfogliatella is about a third of that size. And this is filled with some Bavarian cream. So wish me luck, everyone. Let's try this sfogliatella. Now, most of the immigrants who came here, any time between the 1850s, 1860s, is when Italians really started coming here. But then in larger waves towards the 1900s and 1910s, those Italian Americans that mostly came here came mostly from one specific city in Sicily, Pozzolo, Sicily. Of course, there were many others that also came from Sicily. So a lot of the treats here we see are of the Sicilian variety. Mmm. Mmm. This is really good. I'm pleasantly shocked. As I told you, I'm not too big of a fan of most Italian pastry shops in the US. This is not sweet at all, in a good way, in a very good way. You taste the actual layers of the crunchy bread. It's all different layers. The cream is fresh. It's not a cream that's saturated with sugar like most whipped creams are. And it's not the one of the spray can variety. This is actually freshly whipped Bavarian cream. Look at that. So Cynthia's saying that the lobster tail and the sfogliatella are two different pastries. Sfogliatella is clam-shaped and filled with a different filling than lobster tails. Yeah, you're right. The filling is a bit different. This is Bavarian cream rather than kind of that ricotta type of cream. Though the actual bread pastry is basically the same as sfogliatella. Just the cream is different, and yeah, the shape is different. But look at the pastry. So very similar. I'm gonna have one more bite of this. This is really good. I could easily eat this entire thing, but there's so much wind that it's trying to blow away. Wow, look at this. This is delicious. I did not expect to fall in love with so much with this pastry. So the Zarelli family, 1948, has been here hand making fresh pastries every single day. They don't use automated processes like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Krispy Kreme. Real made pastries every single day. Or they're not like a pastry shop that gets them from a bigger bakery, warehouse bakery somewhere. I mean, wholesale bakery somewhere. I'm gonna get one more bite. This is way too good. Blown away. Wow. Wow. Seriously, wow. Is it like a croissant? It's like a much crunchier croissant. It's a much crunchier croissant. Croissants tend to be fluffy. This is very crunchy. Very crunchy. Sorry, I said before that I was going to share this, but no. It's too good. It's too good. It's too good. I'll find a way to fit into my backpack because this is amazing. It's truly a wonderful treat. Actually, you're tuning in live, so you got to tune in for all the slow parts, everyone. Bear with me. Bear with me as I pack up this lobster tail and get on with the show. Ooh, look at that. Croissant has butter. Interesting. I love the idea of the contrast in textures. Yes, that super creaminess and you have the hard crunch. And again, not sweet, not super buttery like a croissant can get. Croissant can also become very sweet if you're in the US. The place across the street says that they are the best croissant in Brooklyn. But today we're not talking about French immigrants, we're talking about Italians. So let's go have what is the natural progression of a pastry. It leads always to coffee. Let's go. Gayatri says, looks yummy. Me dio hambre, Natalia. Oh, que bien que te dio hambre. I agree, not too sweet. You too? Real French whipped cream never has sugar in it. Oh, that's good to know. That's why French sweets weren't always too sweet either. Americans tend to have way too much sweets. Actually, I gotta put on my mask. That's one thing one has to remember to do. So this Court pastry shop is on the corner of De Graw and Court. Please give them business. They are amazing. Highly, highly deserve it. Give them some business next time you're here. Take the train just to come to this place. It's magical. You'll feel like you're moonstruck. Let's go to our next stop, D'Amico Coffee. So D'Amico Coffee started in 1948 as well by Emmanuel D'Amico.
Este bizcocho. Which one? What are the plain?
She wants you to make her a nice coffee. So you have to put one equal.
Yeah. Okay.
One equal
Yeah.
and regular milk.
What size?
Small for Anna. Just one equal.
The equal is behind.
Okay.
Into the glass and you can make it.
Okay, I can take the sweet and low. If she's a diabetic, you gotta watch. There you go. I gotta make it.
I think you do, unfortunately.
I don't know where I went there.
It's the cold one right down there. Right down there.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I never knew that.
Yeah. Self-serve.
Thank you so much.
Like a double espresso, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
No problem. Awesome, thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you.
Espresso?
Espresso?
Yeah.
Road espresso, double espresso?
It was a double.
Double?
Yeah.
Can you $3, buddy?
$3? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too, thank you.
Listen, I'm 84 years old. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, no problem at all. Oh, good, good. Is it good? Good coffee? I'm excited to try it. First time for me. Very good. Very good? Awesome.
We get tired of drinking hot.
Okay. All right, so now to understand this coffee shop, we have to go back to. So right inside they have a roaster, and this is not their main roasting place. They actually have a wholesale roaster in Red Hook. However, they're local, and they've been roasting coffee since 1948. Now, this is an authentic Italian-American coffee shop. There's a lot of coffee shops in New York City. Not that many Italian-American coffee shops that survive, that are specifically for coffee and about coffee. Even less that roast their own coffee. I think might be the only one. But please correct me if there's another one. Now, we have to go back to 1948 when the coffee industry was mostly dominated by a few small companies. I'm gonna drink a sip as I tell the story. Ooh. So if you tried this in 1948, you would be so happy, especially if you're an Italian immigrant. My family's from Puerto Rico, and if I were a Puerto Rican immigrant in 1948, or migrant because we're U.S. citizens, I would feel very happy as well. The reason I would feel happy was because the only thing that Americans really didn't know about coffee at that time was the major companies. Folgers, I think, was starting. There was also there was a few others. Let me know what the other major companies was, but Folgers was one of the big ones. And they weren't that good. They were huge operations, tend to have very low quality coffee. The beans usually came from Brazil, which were always constantly under the sunlight, which made it very bad. And there's a bee. Bees like coffee for some reason. There was always sun on these coffee bean fields in Brazil, which made the coffee very super acidic and kind of not good tasting. Sometimes, Maxwell's, thank you so much, Sarah. Maxwell's and Folgers. Sometimes the coffee was so bad that it would come gray. And when it came gray, certain American companies, I won't name names, would put food coloring to make that coffee bean look brown. They would put glazing to preserve that coffee bean a little bit more extra than it's supposed to be. Really bad practices. So D'Amico came at a perfect time, perfect place to start providing very good coffee to the Italian-American neighborhood over here. And the coffee here, really good. Takes me back to Italy, to be honest. There's like a good kick to it. To me, it tastes more like the Southern Italian variety. Of course, they're, I think, most likely Sicilian. I've had experience with the Naples coffee, so it's kind of that super punch to it. And I'll show you the crema before I drink it all. Now look at that. Wow. There's still crema even though I was drinking it. Was this place featured in the History of Coffee book? I don't think so. Kay asked that question. She's referring to an amazing book if you want to learn about the history of coffee in New York. It's called Uncommon Grounds. And they have like 150 pages dedicated to New York coffee history because New York was very pivotal to coffee history. Folgers and Maxwell's branched out from New York companies. So, great coffee. Highly recommend D'Amico. Give these guys support. There's a lot of great coffee shops here. I know that. There's East One Coffee nearby. There's Hungry Ghost. There's some amazing coffee shops. But give these guys support. This is a really excellent cup of coffee. Delicious. Now, let's keep walking down. We're still at the same corner. The pastry shop is literally just across the block. We're at Court and De Gras. I love coffee. A little bit of sugar is nice. A little bit of sugar. I usually don't have sugar, but yeah, whatever floats your boat. So I'll put the list of places that we're going as I turn the camera around. All right. So those are the places we're visiting, just so you know, and let's continue on. Ooh. Have a great day. I forget to put on the mask, which is annoying. Let me know, what is the best Italian coffee you've had? There's a place across the street called Coffee Shop, though I don't know about it. I think it's more like a diner. And hello, Mira, welcome. And you're Colombian. I can recommend you all guys to taste Colombian coffee. Colombian coffee is great. There's an amazing place called Mi Pueblo Querido in Williamsburg. Also in Williamsburg, there's Devoción. Two great Colombian coffee roasters. Are masks mandatory in the streets? No, but there is a lot of people here, and there's also a lot of elderly people here. And I do mean elderly, yeah, 85 plus. So I'd rather wear a mask as much as I can. Here is Scotto's Wine Cellar. So I was going to mention Scotto's Funeral Home, which unfortunately was closed. This ties into the history of the neighborhood and why the neighborhood ended up becoming Carroll Gardens. Salvatore Buddy Scotto was a native of this neighborhood, and he noticed that by the 1960s, people were starting to leave. They were going to the suburbs. They were taking roads like the BQE and started heading off into Long Island. I currently live in an area where it's filled with a bunch of Italians, and he, wanted to keep the life of the neighborhood, and thus he ended up changing up the name of the neighborhood from South Brooklyn, which was kind of encompassing also Red Hook and Gowanus and Cobble Hill and Borum Hill. There was no distinction between these neighborhoods before, and he also decided to start beautifying the gardens in the front and incentivizing homeowners to make their gardens much more beautiful. So this one is actually much more full, so let's wait in line. This is Caputo's Bake Shop. 1904. Okay, these guys are way more full than I expected. This was going to be another of the stops. However, the line is a bit too full, so I'm going to skip it. However, if you're here, highly recommend getting yourself a Sicilian bread, which they've been making here since 1904. Caputo's Bake Shop. Another classic Italian-American place. Line is a bit too long, but get yourself the Sicilian bread. Let's continue on to where Al Capone got married. Hello, Meriva. Thank you so much for the stars. Petrine, thank you so much for the stars. Doreen says, looks yummy. Go to Court Street Bakery. It's world famous. Patty, we just went to Court Street Bakery. Oh, you mean Court Street Bakery, the newer one, the one where they sell sandwiches. Oh, yeah, good recommendation. I'll point it out, I think, if we are about to pass it. So some Italian-American restaurants here. Marco Polo, 1983. My real name is Francis Carroll, Scottish, but with Irish blood. Ooh, cool. Says Jamie. That's awesome. Super strong. Yes, the coffee was super strong, Mael. Lots of caffeine and sugar today, Ariel. Enjoy. Actually, you'll be surprised. The lobster tail wasn't too sugary. And the coffee, yeah, that was strong. So indeed it was. Nina says your camera makes the store look like an elongated football field. It does, but I want you to see more of the store. You know, I'm going into these places without explicit permission, though most places never mind that I'm showing going inside. I'd rather just put on the wide angle so you can see as much as possible without me like lingering there and trying to show you everything with the regular lens. Here is Carroll Park, and yeah, another church. How many churches does that make, everyone? 5, I think. We're up to 5 churches. 5 churches in this tour. Look at this! Wow, look at this flower shop. Oh my God. Wow, it's amazing. Just in love with this neighborhood. So, Carroll Park is the namesake of this neighborhood. It's named after the only Roman Catholic signer of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, this was a time, 1776, where most Protestants weren't very welcoming, and Anglicans weren't very welcoming of Roman Catholics. They actually saw them with a lot of suspicion. However, Charles Carroll managed to get into the good graces of the government, and here he is. And he owned a huge swath of this area, and he was the first one to develop it. Here's one of the new modern coffee shops, East One. Though, if you're here, please do put in priority the Italian-American shops. Let's keep them alive. Let's keep them thriving, hopefully. Now, this guy ended up becoming the U.S. Senator of Maryland. And here, it's one of the main areas where he used to live for quite a while and developed. So down here we have a farmer's market. It's coming to a close right now, so it's open pretty early. After that coffee, you probably need an amaretto. Gretchen, that might be the case. That might be the case. Where would be a good amaretto in this area? If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. Look at this flower shop. Corner Bistro has great burgers in history. Oh, it does. Wow. Nia says, please keep Brooklyn Italian culture alive here. Yes, please do. All right, everyone, let's go to our final 2 stops. No more food today. Those were our 3 food stops. Feel free to ask any questions. Wow, even this Dunkin' Donuts has a garden. So again, don't have coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Have coffee at the Amico. Wow. So let me know if you are Italian American, where you're currently based. When did your family move away from either New York or Chicago or Boston? If you're not here anymore. If you are still here, I'm curious. What neighborhood? Mael, do I do these live walks tours often? Yes, twice a week. Today was a rescheduled one, but the regular scheduled live videos are every Wednesday and Saturday at 1 p.m. New York City time. So Aida used to live in Brooklyn Heights. So cool. I love the sign of this place. We'll zoom in. It says coffee plus beer and plus cheese. I guess they have a whole lot more beer than coffee and cheese. How long would it take you to get home from here? Right now, I live about an hour commute away, give or take. maybe a little bit less depending on how well timed I am with trains, but an hour, yeah. By public transit. By car it would be about maybe 50 minutes, 40, a little bit less, maybe about 35 to 40 minutes. So who would live in this neighborhood? Let me know in the comments. Would you live here? Let me know. I'm curious. Then you have to have a taste of limoncello. Oh yeah, limoncello. You know, I wish Italian American places still gave you the limoncello after the end of the meal like they do in many parts of Italy. It doesn't happen so often anymore. When will Jay-Z eat at their favorite place at Lucali? So Lucali is like a few blocks down, I think at Henry Street, if I'm correct. And great pizzeria. I would put it in one of my top recommendations for this neighborhood. I wish I could visit it during this broadcast, but that place is a very long waiting list, especially during the weekends. So maybe one day I'll show it to you via live. Outdoor cafe, look at that. Wow, it's really becoming Parisian here in New York City. Oh, Cynthia, second generation Italian American living in Valley Stream, another Italian American hotspot in Long Island. I would definitely live in this neighborhood, says Gretchen. Oh, I'm so glad you would. Look at these gardens. Some are truly magnificent. Elisa, have I been to Italy? Yes. Last year, I did 17 whole days. I did maybe like 2 or 3 videos per day sometimes at Rome, and then went to Naples. And I did Pompeii as well. So yeah, I've done a whole lot. What's public transport now? It's very clean. It's basically the same as it used to be. Just a little bit emptier, but basically the same. Wilma, you love the videos. I'm so glad you do, Wilma. Ariel was there, says Wilma. Oh, yes. I was in Italy. I showed it. I was there, and many of you that were there with me virtually. So here we see a Virgin Mary, which I think it is a Virgin Mary. Yeah, it looks like her. And there's a lot of them in this neighborhood. As I mentioned, Italians have a thing for Virgin Marys. Not so much with Irish and Irish Americans. So now we're about like 5 more minutes away from our last stop. So we're gonna pass by a few more places. Jerry asks if anyone remembers Sparky's A House. Is there a Scottish neighborhood? Jamie, great question. I don't think so. I haven't heard of any Scottish neighborhood. I don't think there's ever been a substantial amount of Scottish immigrants after the 1800s here in New York City, or in the US. Maybe I'm wrong. So if there's an American enclave of Scots, let me know. But as far as I know, nope. This place, Frankie 547, sells great pasta. And look at this pizza. Amazing. FNFs. Here's another great place called Black and Gold. Great coffee as well here. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Not Frank's, but the church where one of the most infamous men in America got married. This church was also built by Thomas Keeley, the same guy who built the first church we visited, Sacred Heart / St. Stephen's. So the guy was very prolific. Irish American. And this church was open since 1851. However, in 1918, Al Capone and Mary May Coughlin got married. It was a union between Italian and Irish. Mary May Coughlin remained loyal to Capone till his last days when he died in Florida in 1947. But who was Al Capone? Well, Al Capone was raised here in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. Italian-American boy, born in 1899, and he got his start in crime. That changed significantly because in the 1920s, alcohol was illegalized here in America. It was the era of prohibition. And he saw opportunity to smuggle in rum from the Caribbean. Thus, he moved to Long Island to be closer to the rum trade. He started getting his hands dirty right there. And then, apparently, he quickly left to Chicago. No one knows for sure why. One reason is that his family members and friends invited him over to be part of the business in Chicago. Other people think that he also was escaping a murder charge here in New York. So beautiful church. Now, why was he escaping a murder charge? Well, the man was brutal. He was involved in so many killings. Usually he didn't get his own hands dirty, but he sent other people to do the dirty work. Until he finally got arrested for tax evasion. But something strange when he got arrested for tax evasion. Because when he was starting his crime career, he was helping out with a brothel. Many years later, he's arrested. He goes to Alcatraz, and they make some tests to see his health and also to see his IQ. His nickname was Scarface. Apparently, he wanted to be called something like Spooky, I think he wanted to be called. Something along those lines, which was very strange that he wanted to be called some silly name. And also his intelligence was waning. And at first the doctors were a little bit confused as to why. And they ended up finding out that syphilis was eating out his brain. His IQ was the level of a 6th grader. Then it went even further down to the level of a 6-year-old. He suffered quite a lot. And once he got out of jail, he ended up moving to his home in Florida and fishing in his own pool, thinking that he could capture fish. 2 of his bodyguards/friends were there till his final day, and he just died on natural causes. Very strange ending for one of the most notorious gangsters. A gangster who had his brain rotted away due to an illness he got running an illegal brothel. Kind of a twist of fate. Now, let's go. Let's go to one final place. I mentioned earlier to remember the bottom level of a brownstone. Usually a brownstone has a full basement. This place in Google, up until recently, was incorrectly named for some weird reason. Tuba, hello, good to see you live. Bless you from my side. Thank you so much, Tuba, watching from Pakistan. You should do some videos on gangsters and their history. Maybe, okay. It's a pretty depressing history, so I usually try to avoid it. So here is Dennett Place. I'll show you the name here. Now, if you search this on Google, up until a few months ago, it only had 1 T on Google, which starts the entire mystery. Because this place called Dennett Place has a very strange fixture. There's a small little door. Okay. Maybe a person who had dwarfism maybe lived here. Maybe it was one person who had dwarfism. But no, another tiny little door. I mean, for example, another tiny little door. I'll put the camera down just so you can see a height example. I'm 6 feet. I'm 6 feet. I'll stand right by this door, which tends to be the biggest one. Why is there a door that's like 5 feet? Why is there a door right next to me that's 3 feet? Snorky. Thank you so much, Edward. Snorky. It was so silly that I even like couldn't even remember it. Scarface sounds a lot better. These are real doors leading to real basements here, but they're tiny. Rich says I shot up. Rich, I've been 6 feet for more than a decade, at least. So these are normal houses with tiny little doors. But why? Well, that's where the mystery gets interesting, because I mentioned the name of the street. It's called Dennett Place. But as I was doing some searching on historical records, I couldn't find any Dennett Place when you go back to when most of these houses were built. These houses were mostly built in the 1850s, and this is what you would call a mews. Dennett Place was originally called Bennett Place. No one knows how it ended up getting its D. However, the stranger thing is that there is no records as to why there's tiny little doors. These tiny little doors lead to regular sized basements, but no one knows. There's no records at all. So this is a true mystery, and I usually have answers to my mysteries, but in this case, there is no answer. I truly don't know. I couldn't find anything in my research as to why there's tiny little doors. So let me know what's hiding behind these tiny little doors. Why is there a tiny little door in all these houses on just one street? This is something you don't see in the rest of New York City. This is just Dennett Place. Tiny little doors leading to where? Who knows? Is it because of coal? Maybe. Is it because of maybe there was a group of famous dwarves that lived here? Maybe. Though there's no records of that. Coal, there's no records of it being coal doors. I know what you mean. There are coal doors. Nope. Is it for deliveries? No. These are mews. So servants might have lived here, or lower working class might have lived here. But no one knows if it was for deliveries. There should be some records about deliveries, but nope. Italian old people are so tiny. That might be a little bit of a stereotype. They're not that tiny. So who knows? I don't know why. Let me know your theories as to why there's tiny little doors on Dennett Place. So this was our tour. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I will put the list of places I visited. Please, there's a great food here. I mentioned there's great hipster coffee shops. There's great French restaurants. There's a great deli sandwich place. But do at first, before you get full on any of those places, get hyped up on coffee at those places, please do get those Italian-American treats that I mentioned. The Amico, Court Pastry Shop, and Caputo. Because you'll be supporting the Italian-American community that keeps this neighborhood charm. You know, there's neighborhoods where we couldn't keep that charm. I myself am from a Puerto Rican family, and I wish we still had those Puerto Rican businesses in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but we don't. So keep the Italian-American businesses alive. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Maybe Snow White's lived here, maybe Snow White's lived here. Maybe there were speakeasies. These were built in the 1850s, so they predate Prohibition. So good theory, but probably not the case. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in every Saturday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. And possibly at 5:30 p.m., possibly at 5:30 p.m., you will be seeing an extra walk where we wander around in Brooklyn. Stay tuned, keep being awesome, and always keep on exploring. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good day, everyone.